Live from Charleston, South Carolina is the Pursuit PT Podcast with your hosts, Austyn, Ellison, and Billy Lankford, two doctoral physical therapy students at the Medical University of South Carolina. Now let's get to it. Episode 10, Dr. Dodds. The Pursuit PT Podcast is sponsored by Turkey's Towing. For all your towing needs, call Turkey's Towing at 843-766-TURK. That'd be 843-766-8875.
Welcome back to the Pursuit PT Podcast, live from the Charleston City Harbor. This is your host, Austyn, and we have our co-host, Billy, here. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Cindy Dodds, our pediatric professor. Dr. Dodds, thank you so much for joining us today in this beautiful environment.
Oh, happy to be here. This is great. Outside on a pretty day.
Yes, ma'am. What better way to spend your birthday as well? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. So we'll just get started here and talk about a little bit about yourself, about your upbringing as far as a PT and a professor. So kind of run us down, give us a little overview of how you got into peds, how you got into teaching, and all of that.
I got into peds probably in 1990, but I was interested in peds when I was a student. And I had a clinical that was so-so, but it taught me what I didn't want to be. And then I took a job with a great musculoskeletal physical therapist outside of Washington, D.C. and learned a ton and gradually made my way back to peds.
Nice.
And it's been a good career.
Nice. Tell us how you became a professor. I'm curious.
That's linked to, I helped in Charleston start a nonprofit called Patterson's Academy, which served children with multiple disabilities, and recognized that we were going to need to do some research for those kids, and started my PhD really to do that, and then was approached and have had a pretty long relationship since I moved to Charleston with MUSC, doing adjunct work, coming in, teaching this, leaving, just as people would go on maternity leaves or take new jobs. So when I finished my PhD, the division director at that time and the chair were both physical therapists and kind of said, hey, well, we really need somebody to teach peds, because that was just an adjunct position before I got here.
Okay, nice. So you're like the first full-time, I guess, peds professor.
I'm not the first, but I was the first for a while. That peds person left that was full-time, and they replaced it with an adjunct, and then I stepped back in. Yeah.
Nice. So at MUSC, what are some of your favorite classes to teach? Tell the people what you teach, I guess.
I teach motor development, which is how children learn to move, and really how people that have had injuries relearn how to move. And I teach all the pediatric content. I do the pediatrics course, but I do a couple of interprofessional pediatric, like Camp Hand to Hand, which is a camp for children with hemiplegia. I do some global work that involves, like this year, we're delivering 50 wheelchairs to children in Uganda. I direct the Pediatric Residency, and then I serve as a principal investigator on a couple of clinical trials that we've had here.
Nice. So also shout out, if anyone needs volunteer work hours for anything in high school, college, come find Dr. Dodds. She always could use extra set of hands. So yeah, Austyn, go ahead.
All right, Dr. Dodds. So it sounds like you have a very full plate, which is great. That's great. But how do you balance teaching and being a physical therapist with everything that you have going on?
This is a really hard question. And yesterday, like when we were in class, and one of the students asked about getting burned out, and I said, absolutely not. This is going to sound so stupid and corny, but I really am a physical therapist because I want to be a physical therapist for children.
Yeah.
It's just kind of who defines me. So it's not like I come to work and I just be this pediatric therapist. I'm this pediatric therapist when I'm at home. So I think it's more about, this sounds stupid, but it's more about why I'm on this earth.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I don't get burned out. And I think that's why I enjoy like almost all pediatric, and I probably do a lot of things, probably more sometimes than I should, but that's why I do it. It sounds stupid.
No, that's a good answer.
But I think it's just who I am.
Yeah. So finding your passion with everything.
I think I was just really fortunate. I think y'all have all heard, I believe in sometimes you're asked to do things and you're not sure you should or if you want, but usually if I have any slight interest, I just say, okay, and I jump on the train. And I think if you do that, you end up like you're just being guided by some other force outside yourself. You just kind of have to listen. And I think I've done really well with listening to take those challenges and give it a whirl. And that it gets you where you get you to your happy place, I think.
I do feel like you're one of the people, like one of the few people where I've met where I feel like you have fulfilled your purpose, like wholeheartedly, 100%. There's a lot of people out there that are struggling to find that and kind of go through the motions of life and stuff like that. But I feel like with all the stuff that you do is amazing for all the kids that you serve and students that you help, us, everybody else. So it's really cool to see that.
And I think that's probably why, it sounds really stupid, but why I married who I married, because he knew that's who he was marrying. Like I was already that person. I was already spinning in a lot of different directions, doing what I felt like I was put on this earth to do.
Yeah.
And so I think if you just kind of listen to your opportunities, and you'll be guided and end up in a really happy place.
Nice. Wise words from Dr. Dodds.
I don't know about that.
All right, we'll move on from the school stuff, I guess, as much. But I'm interested in like some of your extracurricular stuff they do outside of school. I know you're involved with service trips to Africa, Sunshine Clinic.
Yeah.
You just said Patterson's Academy.
Yeah.
So go into detail on some of those things. I'm curious.
I'll start with Patterson's first. So that is really, I had 3 other women involved in that. One was a mother of a child who was brilliant from a business sense. One was a great and fabulous special ed teacher who I dearly love. And the other was a crazy occupational therapist who I also dearly love, but just, she knows who she is. So the 4 of us just saw a need, and we started a summer camp for kids mainly that are in wheelchairs, and many can't eat, but on their own, they're tube fed. And they're just very dependent. But we started a summer camp, and we really were out in the community a lot. We took all these kids we would take 60 kids to the water park, and that was 60 kids in a wheelchair. We didn't have much money. We had enough money to pay people to run the camp and get the supplies we needed, but I drove. At the time, MUSC had a van that was adjunct, so we put the kids in car seats in the van, and then we'd take another friend lend me her horse trailer. We put all their wheelchairs in the horse trailer, and we'd show up at the water park, and people were like, "Who are these crazy fools?" And then we got a little more sophisticated because people noticed, and we had a lot of generous donors, and actually, we could pay people to officially load us in our wheelchair safely and get from point A to point B. And that turned into a public charter school, and so that was one extracurricular. I'm not in charge of Sunshine. Dr. Ashley Bondurant, who is with the educational instruction team at CHIP, is. We work together because she does pediatrics too, but it's really her brainchild. I'm just happy that y'all get the opportunity to go in there and appreciate that she creates that environment.
Right.
She knew when she was creating it, she was helping me. We had talks about it, but it really is her. I go, especially when I have a child that's like more in my wheelhouse, has a lot of complexity, but I don't go every week. I just go randomly. And then what was the other one?
Well, while we're on Sunshine Clinic, I think Go Baby Go is a part of that, right?
Well, Go Baby Go is just a college, yeah.
Okay.
So we make ride-on cars and adapt them with switches for children who need to drive a car in a different way. And so if you need a car, just contact me. If you have a kid that has a disability and we need to modify a ride-on car, we're your people. And can I say one other thing?
Go ahead.
So Cammie Myers, y'all know Cammie?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So Cammie Myers she started the Camden Scott Meyer Pediatric Lab, which is that little 205 where we did those swing activities. So that's named after Cammie's son. And Cammie and her family started a fund in the foundation for pediatric initiatives. And I want to mention that because that's how we're able, and y'all are able to access money to build those cars. So the students actually get to, if they want, can learn how to build those ride-on cars. But that money is really goes back to Cammie Myers and her son. And I think I just wanted to highlight, we couldn't do a lot of this without Cammie and the Pediatric Initiatives funding.
And shout out to all the PT students that and other students that help build those cars. Ben's with us here. Shout out to you for doing that, helping out with that. That's pretty cool stuff. All right, last thing, service trips to Africa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know you're very passionate about that, so I want to hear you talk about that a little bit.
That really was started with students. They started going, and they needed a faculty member to go, and I was like, yeah, sure. Here we go. Sure, I'll go. So that's how that started. I think where we've gone, and I still do this, that first week is just going into different villages and patients show up and we're an interprofessional team, and that's great and good. But it got really, we would always take wheelchairs, just like fold-in loaner wheelchairs I could find around town. But that's not really, you're not supposed to do that because there's no way to repair them in Africa. They're on metric, we're on US. They're worn out. They're not made for those people. They're not made for their roads. They're made for a higher resource country. So we really needed to do a better job in delivering wheelchairs that were appropriate. Just for, put patients first. That's what they needed. But the other thing is you need to see it because my words won't describe it, but it's really hard to watch a man or a woman army crawl up a dirt road to get to you. It is really hard to think that's how they've left their home and how they have to get to you. So we started the Ugandan Wheelchair Project, and that's probably what I was there the first week in the villages. The second 2 weeks we're delivering wheelchairs that are made for Africa. They're new. We customized some of them, and we wish we had enough money to do more, but we usually can at least deliver 50 to 70 wheelchairs in a couple weeks.
Wow,
so
that's so cool.
Really fun.
Yeah, that's so cool that you guys do that and help out everybody in need over there. That's really awesome.
So we do this year we're just doing kids because of just the size of chairs we have, or either smaller adults, but we really do adults and children.
That's awesome. What is your favorite story from Africa? It can be a PED story, it can be a funny story. I know you told us a story about a fire alarm incident in class one day, but if you have anything else that seems entertaining or heartwarming, what comes to mind with that?
Okay, the other one is, I'm going to call his name out too, is Matt Esman. He was a PT student who went back to med school. I actually texted him earlier this week. We were standing in this village, and y'all know I'm not the best with technology, and I definitely don't do social media. I don't know that I really want to do social media because I think it would suck me in and be totally unproductive. But we were standing in this village in Africa. We were waiting for the supplies to all get loaded up so we could go back to the hotel for the evening. And these guys, Matt Esman, and there were girls too, so the small group of students were all like, they had Tinder on, and they were popping up these little places where you can see people that were on Tinder. It were like Uganda, Africa. And I remember like going, what? This is crazy. If y'all are getting your butts back on that bus and going back to the hotel, I don't care who you think you find.
Did he match with anyone?
I don't know. I was like, this is nuts.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and then there's a sign. Okay, I'm going to tell another. He's got to listen to this. Okay, this is Matt Esman and Laura Wanger. She's an OT student, did her PhD at Ohio State. I probably shouldn't say that. You might need to edit that. But anyway, there's a sign. Sometimes we work out of schools, and schools are linked to churches. And so they often have these little signs in the ground. And one of them said, respect your teacher. And I'm kind of stupid sometimes, so they talked me into standing in front of that sign. So it's a little sign down like no higher than your knees. I'm standing in front of that sign, and he's on one side and Lauren's on the other side, and they flipped me the bird. And they took a picture. Respect your teacher. So that's another funny one.
Do you still have that picture?
I do.
That's awesome.
I do.
That's awesome.
I do.
We might have to see that off camera. That's really cool. Shifting gears a little bit from extracurriculars and stuff, talking about kind of more our environment and where we're at, obviously our beloved city of Charleston. How do you feel like being in Charleston has allowed you to reach so many people in need?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the Medical University has grown a lot ever since the time I moved to Charleston. So I definitely have made a lot of friends. So that's step one. My friend Patty Coker-Bolt, who's retired from the OT faculty, really, I think both of us have supported each other to move each other forward to more of an international level. She went on the Africa trips. She's who I went to Vietnam with to do teaching. So I think we've each helped each other. So that really, from a academic, like how do you get published, how do you do research, how do you teach, and raised from like a local level to international level. I've done a lot with her, and I'm grateful for that. Charleston, otherwise, it's just warm. I think it's just, I moved here probably because it was warmer. I grew up in Virginia, and it's not even that cold in Virginia, but I just really like warmer weather. I like being outside. I like the sunshine, so I can walk, I can garden almost year round.
Yeah.
Elliot likes the boat. I go on the boat some, but he goes weekly. He could not live somewhere where he went in the water. So it just worked. I mean, I don't know, it just feels kind of right.
Yeah.
And I think people like coming to Charleston, so when I have collaborators, that helps.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like we've all made Charleston our own little home this past few years. It's been cool. What about, because you live on a farm outside of the city, right?
Well, I don't live on a farm. My friend.
Your friend lives on a farm.
Yeah,
okay.
My friend Susan has a farm.
Okay.
But it's real close to my house.
Gotcha.
But I do have a couple acres.
Gotcha.
And I have squirrels and raccoons and possums and a dog and a cat. I have 2 dogs, and my neighbors have a bunch of cats. I mean, there's all kinds of animals around. Deer,
Right.
But my horse and donkey. Well, my horse is dead, but my donkey lives down with my friend.
Gotcha. So you get the best of both worlds, like a big city, and then you go back home. You have a rural, more peaceful environment.
Absolutely.
How is that for you, as far as just who you are as a person, you and your husband being out there?
I don't think I could live in the. I could live in the city if I had a boatload of money, but I don't. I'm not going to go hungry, but if I could buy a big mansion, I could live in the city. But I really like the quiet, and I like the birds and the crickets, and our dogs like, we live on a tidal creek, so like they went on 3 boat rides yesterday. It's just a good little life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't always go. We have a big screen porch. So during COVID, I lived on the screen porch. I think that's how I stayed sane, is to be outside and work outside as much as I can.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. All right. So to end it here, we're going to give you some rapid fire questions. We know you got a busy day ahead of you, so we're going to try to get you out of here soon. And I'm going to ask you the first one, then Austyn's going to ask the next one. We're just going to go back and forth. Again, rapid fire, so try to make your answers short. I know that could be difficult. I've seen on previous episodes. All right, first one. Favorite muscle?
Oh, the curls for the girls, the biceps.
Shout out to Byron Wilson for that. What is your favorite animal?
I guess I'd have to say a dog, but I can't think of an animal I don't like.
Fair. All right, what's your favorite country that you visited?
I like Uganda. I like Africa a lot.
That's awesome. Okay, speaking of that, what's the best part about going on those mission trips to Africa or Uganda?
The people are super wonderful, and they just never complain. I don't know, they're just nice spirits. I think they're very good human beings. I'm sure there's bad ones, but for the most part, they're just very good human beings, and I'm grateful that I get to spend some time with them. And it is really nice. I look forward, because I leave on May the 2nd, I look forward to having to check out a little bit, because I won't be quite as accessible by email and phone. I'll be enough that we're safe, but that's really pleasant to check out a little bit.
All right, well, now I'm more of a PT here. What's your favorite condition, syndrome to treat? I know you do a lot of complex.
Yeah, that's probably it, which is going to be multi-diagnosis, really. It's not going to be one, but I really like children that are have a lot more impairments and activity limitations.
If you weren't a PEDS PT, now I know we talked about finding your purpose and your passion and everything, but imagine a world where you're not a peds PT. What would you be?
I would be an artist. I would paint. I would be a famous painter.
A famous painter.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I'd have paintings all over the world in all the international museums.
Okay.
I wish.
I know. Final question here, unless Austyn has more. What's your best advice you could give to a student PT or a new grad PT, such as me and Austyn?
I think I already told you. It's just when you see an opportunity, if it's something you have a little bit of interest in, and you're just not quite sure you should do it, you should do it. You can always quit doing it, but you should give it a try and see if it leads you somewhere where you want to be.
I love that. That's beautiful advice. I do have one more question. What's the hardest thing about being a peds physical therapist?
That's a hard one. This is gonna sound corny, and y'all are in the class right now, but I think it is just peds is everything in adults. There's not. So I think it's just staying current on the knowledge and the volume of information that is becoming available with, not just the internet, but just AI, how to keep up, because these kids are getting diagnoses that you've just never heard of. I think that staying current is probably, with the volume of information and the variety of children that have disabilities or illnesses.
Yeah, that probably goes for the profession as a whole, right?
Yeah, it's getting really hard.
Yeah.
But I guess because peds can be musculoskeletal or neuro, it just can be anything. That I think is really challenging to stay current.
For sure. Okay, so now that we've kind of ran through our list of questions, I wanted to give the floor over to you and see if you had any questions or if you had anything else that you would like to share for everyone listening out there.
Well, why do y'all want to be a physical therapist?
Billy, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'll take it. Honestly, I've always wanted to kind of do something in medicine, and I was always just intrigued by anatomy and stuff. And so I actually went to physical therapy when I was in high school, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
And I liked the how you can have a good relationship with your PT, and I found that really attractive as a profession. And after shadowing and stuff in undergrad, I kind of just fell in love with it, and I just love it now. So I like it even more now than when I did.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would just preface by saying we can be life-changing people in the community, and our ability to help people out as much as we can. But my pediatric surgeon, actually, he told me when I was all done with him to go out and give back in the world. And that always stuck with me as from 10 years old to high school and college and playing sports and stuff like that. I knew I wanted to stay around sports, but I also knew I wanted to be in the medical field in some way. And so I just tried to figure out where that vocation landed me, and I always used his advice as a guide, and that's a short story kind of how I ended up in PT. So like Billy said, I love it more now that we're further and further along, and we're almost graduated. It's crazy.
It is.
But yeah,
this time next year.
I know. Yeah, it's really fun though. I really enjoy it. So yeah.
Well, I hope y'all stay in touch too. I don't stay in touch with all my PT colleagues, but I stay in touch with a handful, and it is nice to have those relationships years later.
Yeah, for sure. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share before we close out?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
It's been fun.
It has been a great time.
Day. Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us, and happy birthday. I'm glad we got to celebrate on the boat, and it's a beautiful day outside, so thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
All right, guys, that concludes our episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to the episode of the Pursuit PT podcast. If you haven't, go ahead and check out our Instagram at Pursuit PT, and as always, continue to pursue health and achieve excellence.